when we live, because I have no idea what's happening. Okay, see, I am tagged in a post. Let me see what that. Well, I know what it is, but you know.
Right. So
Okay, good, cool. Okay.
the live should be coming up.
Yeah, but if
Right.
I saw it, but if I put it, if I keep it up, it's going to be distracting.
Okay.
Um.
But you could share it on your page and take it off if you want.
Oh, okay. Let me do that. Let me do that. Let me do that. Let me do that. Oh, come
So
on.
everyone who's on, if you all go to Pride TT's Facebook page or Mervyn, because he's going to share it as well, you can just reshare it so people can tune in that way.
Uh. So why am I not seeing the share button? What do I have to press? But I can't find the share button. What is save video, remove tag, snooze, pride, unfollow, find support for video, turn on live notifications, change video quality, you
So
know.
when you open the live, just below it, you should see the like,
It
comment,
just says
share
live.
button.
Let me see. And I'm hearing myself like a month later.
So if you share it and mute it, it will be fine.
Oh, should I go to the desktop? Let me see if I can find it on this. Da, 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 Okay, that. Come open here. That. Share. Okay. Um, let's begin. Okay, good. Share now. Good. So I'm so done with that.
Right? So we're good to go.
Yes, let's go. So, hello, whoever is out there. This, as some of you may know, this is like year number 3 of doing this acting up thing, and in 2018, we did a whole reflection on the history of queer theater in Trinidad and Tobago very specifically. Then 12 months ago, we did a journey through queer cinema and television beginning in 1918 with Different from the Others, which I recommend highly, not because it's brilliant, because it's real old timey, so it's not that brilliant, but because it's the first time ever that actual voices were heard in queer theater, even though it's a silent movie. Um, and I really didn't know that I had anything much to say in 2020 because we've seen stage, we've seen television, we've seen film, and I wasn't even thinking about it. Honestly, I thought, okay, maybe I don't know, maybe we can do a reading, which we did last Pride Month. Maybe we can just, I don't know. I'm not thinking about it. And then Black Friday, March 2020, the world ended. And we have to begin from scratch. And that is what I call the beginning of the lockdown. Let me just go give a quick run through my credentials simply because I realized looking back on it now and thinking about it, it's something that I had never done. Um, I began in 1980, which means I am hella fucking old. And it, these things want to pop up and bother me now. Anyway, um, that was getting into the theater, but I don't really think that, my career as or whatever actually began until 1984 when I directed the Rocky Horror Show. Met some of the nicest people, worked with them. It was absolutely the best of times. It was the most horrifying of times, because, youth. I will leave it at that. Um, as a director, I think, the first time I impressed myself was when I did As Is in 1987. And when I say I impressed myself, I have seen theater from Brazil, I've seen theater from Germany, I've seen theater from Japan, I've seen theater from China. And that production, for me, as an artist, as someone who is creative, and somebody who knows the theater now after a lifetime of having to deal with it, I look back on that and I'm absolutely stunned at what I did at that age. What I did at 27, sometimes I look at stuff I did in my 30s and my 40s, and I'm like, I don't even know that I touched that then. I look at my career in three distinct phases, beginning in 1984 as a director, ending in 1989 with the production of M. Butterfly. M. Butterfly was highly lauded. It was so well received. I absolutely thought that the direction was horrendous, and I directed it. I was like, oh my God. And I could not figure out what was wrong with it. And it wasn't until I saw some of it on PBS once when I was in Manhattan and the television was on. And this play was on PBS and I'm listening to it and I know the lines, but I don't know why I should know it. And then I saw it and I realized the problem that our production of M. Butterfly, with our production of M. Butterfly, was that at no point did I believe that the male protagonist who played the transgendered character, I never believed that he was a woman. He had not embodied womanhood. Um, After that, I stopped. And in 1993, I began what I consider chapter two of my entire process in the theater, my life in the theater. And it's been very up and very down. Towards the end of the 90s, I began writing. Now, I did writing in school, in theater school, and I had it's the one thing that absolutely terrified me because you just really literally have to put it out, and lay it out for the public. They see whatever it is, they judge whatever it is, they can say whatever they want. Um, and okay, somebody's commenting. They can say whatever they want. One thing I will say about myself is I'm not afraid of criticism. I don't think I will ever meet a critic who is as rough on me as I am on me. Um, I wrote for Westwood Park for Danielle DeFantalo, which she produced, she directed it. It is one of the highlights of my life, not only my career, of my life, because I got an opportunity to use my voice to do something that I was absolutely afraid of, to do something that had been calling me ever since I was in school. And the first time I wrote something and people responded to it, which the beginning of it was intending, obviously, to itself to be a catastrophe. I had never written anything. I had to do this writing thing. When I was in high school and I had to write essays, I always did a descriptive essay because writing fiction was just like not something that was going to, ever happen to me. I was too afraid of that. Um, I was a huge fan of like Fitzgerald and Nathaniel West. I hadn't as yet discovered Lovelace, and I hadn't discovered Walcott, and I hadn't discovered, um, oh gosh, V.S. Naipaul. And I hadn't discovered Toni Morrison. I hadn't discovered, all of these incredible writers. And, as time went by and, I knew that I could never match wits with them. Um, but I did read vociferously. And I wanted to, I didn't know how they express themselves. So anyway, back to being in school, I had to do a scene, and actors in our class would do it. This was in school in Connecticut, and a week went by and nothing came to me. My assignment is due the next day. I went and I wrote this absolutely absurd piece of theater that made no sense, but I just wrote whatever came to mind, whatever, I wrote things that I thought were funny, that were funny to me. And, it was read out in class and people reacted, people responded, which was just like one of the most magical things that could ever happen to you, to have people respond to your stuff. And as an actor, when I used to act, I remember, the first time I got a standing ovation and standing on that stage thinking, sex has got nothing on this. Marriage is going to have nothing on this. I am so high right now. I will never have to take another drink. I would never have to take any drugs. I am so high. It was incredible. And as a director, I've had moments when I looked at my stuff and I just thought, that came out to you. Oh my God. Those moments for me when I impress myself are so much more valid than, collecting, awards and going up and making a speech and thanking this one now and the other one. Because I've always said, when you win things, when you win awards, it is so wonderful at that moment that it happens. 2 hours later, you're back in reality. Life is life is going on. It doesn't make you better. It doesn't make you richer. It doesn't make you wiser. It's really cool to get. It's really nice to thank people from a stage, but it ain't nothing. Um, I know people who paint, people who write poetry, music, whatever. I know that they have those moments when they look at stuff they've done and you just cannot believe. I'll be very honest in that, I remember when, up to the last thing I directed was Equus. And I would look at it sometimes and have no idea what to do next. So I would just look to the sky and say, well, I don't know what I'm doing. You take over. And that is what would happen. That is, you just suck the inspiration out of the sky. Um, Writing, I discovered I'm not afraid of the blank page. I'm still not afraid of the blank page. I because I trained as a director, I know that when dealing with actors, when dealing with people's emotions, that it's a lot of talking, and because of that, I learned to listen to people, and they would tell me things, and which I can never tell anybody. I can never repeat any of it because that was just like wrong and evil, and I also don't gossip. So I use that when writing. People would tell you the most incredible things that you can never imagine when you're a listener. And you just translate that, you create these characters, you give birth to these things that I don't know how else to describe it. Um, so thanks to Daniel DeFantala. And actually, ahead of Daniel, the one who began pushing me down that aisle was Dominic Calipasad, who um, I went in to complain that the people at whoever was writing whatever theater articles and reviews and all of that, that they were so offensively bad and wrong and didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. That you needed to get somebody, who knew it. And then he said, well, since you know so much, why you don't do it? And I said, yeah, fine, I'll do it. And that is how I began writing, leaving the office and thinking, I have no idea what I've just done. I don't know why I said it, but that pushed me down the road of beginning writing. And then Danielle pushed me, to write for television. Um, so the second leg of my career, which began as a director, and I also do costuming and makeup and all of that, and literally paint. Um, Going down that road, and somebody's mic is on, and it's like throwing me a little. Yeah, going down that road, and as a writer now, and what I would do when I was writing for Westwood Park, it used to show on a Sunday night, and every Monday I would, even though I used to have a car back then, I used to jump into a maxi taxi and go into town, and I can actually hear people talking about it and not being identified with it, and just listen to how they responded. And I would take another taxi and come right back home, once again, just listening to the people respond to it. Um, I used to go upstairs to that television in that room, and you can actually listen to the neighbors respond, you know, in real time. So that was good. That was great. That was brilliant. That was, a very, very educational moment for me. And I got more confident as a writer, even though, I listen to things that I've written and I see episodes of West Park, and some of it is rather cringy and some of it is not. I can listen to it and I can tell when I really enjoyed what I was writing, and I can listen to it and know that, oh, you were just not into that scene, that moment, just absent. As once again, as a director, I knew when when my the quality of my work approached what I expected of myself. And even though I've only done like 2 dozen plays since I began, which is a ridiculously low number, because most directors try to do at least one thing every 12 months. Um, Sometimes I take long stretches of time off, even though I'm not on time off now. I'm in a long stretch that just got longer because of the coronavirus. And I mean, all of this is going to lead up to exactly the road I'm heading down. So don't worry about it, even though I'm seeming to meander all over the place. The second phase of my career ended with Equus. And a lot of what I did in Equus was very visual. I based a lot of what I was doing on the works of artists like Caravaggio and Michelangelo, in terms of like imaging, and a lot of like Greek pottery. I got my images from that. So when I look at the pictures now, and I can see, okay, yes, this is exactly the image that I wanted. I was so happy with that production. I was like, okay, that's good. I can end the second leg of my career, which I wasn't intending then, but it happened. As I said, on Black Friday, March 2020, when the planet spun off of its axis, flew into outer space, and everybody's just hanging on for dear life right now. 2 weeks into the lockdown, this would be the end of March, I remember telling a friend of mine, theater is closed for 2020, right? And she's like, how do you know this? I'm like, I just know it. Um, the West End and Broadway, they shuttered until further notice. It wasn't until about 3 weeks ago I saw they put up something that the theaters closed for 2020. See you all in 2021. Um, Ever since then, I have been through the most incredible educational process that has been on fast forward for me. It I can't identify at exactly which point that I knew to myself that things that we knew have changed irrevocably. Um, a lot of at the beginning of the lockdown, a lot of the people who very socially active and who let your pride show, let your anger show, let your whatever, just fucking crashed and burned. They had nothing to say. A lot of I'm exhausted. I just can't do this. I need to take time off. And I realized that a lot of the people who are very politically aware and politically conscious and psychologically conscious, they just began to bloom and to blossom. Now there's not the people who get 500 likes and whatever. I came off of Instagram for a long time because living that Instagram life was just a thing of the past. Everything changed immediately. We crashed into the wall. We did not know what to say, what to do, what to think. And it wasn't until others outside began posting things and, articles and messages and whatever, and people began to retweet. I was like, okay, good. The fake social activists are back up and they're running and they're just talking out their ass. Whatever. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the people who are on the learning curve along with me. I had to take time to look at myself to see how I responded. All of a sudden, I would go to the greengrocer, I would go to the grocery store, I would go to the fishmonger, and I would come back home and I was like, freaking Karen Silkwood at a leaky nuclear plant. You had to bathe and scrub and, wash yourself and do all of these crazy things. You're walking around with, your isopropyl. You just, the panic was so real. I could feel it coming up and strangling me. Walking around with the mask on, I still hate that mask. It felt like somebody's hand was over my nose and my mouth. But all the while, I'm I'm absorbing all of this, and I, you know, I was blogging. I paused for a while, and I paused for a very, very good reason, but I will get to that on my blog, because blogging was the one way I got to write, and I got to talk about these experiences, and I got to talk about what I was feeling, what I was seeing, and what I was thinking. Um, Also, because now I began to, obviously this is not happening in a vacuum, and it annoys me when people talk about the pandemic of 1918, and I'm like, no, this is the second pandemic I'm going through in my lifetime. There was the AIDS pandemic, and because it was so isolated as this is happening to some people, which it never was, and it it was also politicized. It was also denied. This is just not something new. This is something that we saw play out, and I highly recommend Randy Schultz's book, and the band played on. It is incredible. It will almost break your spirit, and then you will rise out of the ashes. That is all I will tell you. If you've never read And the Band Played On, please, 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 for the love of everything seen, read it. And you know, so I began looking at the 1918 pandemic. I began, you know, researching every single thing. My entire feed on YouTube is so uber political because, the whole, the United States is a fucking, you know, it's a bonfire that I'm like, is anybody seeing this? Is anybody aware of this gigantic trash can fire that is happening right now? And I'm listening to all like three podcasts a day. I, days go by and I say, I don't want to see Donald Trump. I don't want to see Kelly McEnany. I don't want to see you know Kellyanne Conway. I don't want to see anybody from Fox News. I don't want to see, and then 1 hour later, I'm catching up on everything. So it it watching myself respond, watching myself react, watching others respond, watching others react. Um, I also recommend Weird History. They have a thing on the pandemic of 1918, and you can play it out right along with what is happening in the United States right now. It's like a ball by ball, replay. While this idiot is saying, those who can't remember history doomed to repeat it, is like, no, ass wipe. If you remembered history, you would not be repeating it. But then again, you're proud of the fact that you can name a lion. So whatever. Um, so that because I realized that a lot of us kind of melted down for a while, and a lot of us needed somebody to talk to, somebody just to listen to. At one point during the days of the lockdown, I used to dread the phone ringing because it would be somebody just calling, if not, you're calling to check up on this one, that one, and the other one. Next thing you know, it's like an hour later, and you're still talking to them, and you're just thinking, God, you can talk. But you also have to be conscious of the fact that people had nobody to talk to. Everybody's locked in, everybody's like isolated. And I cannot be that asshole who is just putting myself front and center and not thinking about anybody else. Um, you find things to do, and people that you can talk to, people you can help, people you can, I've grown very close to some people, and I mean, it's only now I've kind of like backed off of calling my family every other day because they'll be like, "What the fuck, you again?" Um, so in this melee comes along Pride Month 2020. And for last Pride, we held a reading of Christopher Rodriguez's play, which is originally titled Life's a Drag. And now it has been retitled, it's been published. I would just remember, High Heel Parrotfish something. I can't remember what the name is now. And I just asked Christopher, can we do it as a reading? Can we, and we just looked at other plays that were queer themed and coming from Trinidad and Tobago because you want to give people a sense of identity, a sense of place in history, which I will, put a pin in that. Um, Now, we couldn't I couldn't ask somebody, can I do a reading of your play online? That's that's just wrong. I can't take somebody's lifeblood and just put it out online because I can't pay for the electronic rights. I can't pay for broadcast rights. And it's just not right. It's just, I don't mess with people's work. I don't adapt anybody's play. I don't, no. For me, the theater has taken me to China. It has taken me to Paris, France. It has taken me to New York. It is, just I'm in a theater in Trinidad and Tobago, but I can travel time, I can travel space. But I cannot and will not just, put out somebody's work. I will not mess with it at all. That I can, I stand by that 100%. Um, so we're going to do a reading, blah, 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 blah. We don't know what to do. We don't know what to do. We don't know what to do because I can't ask anybody. Yes, we can put it on. We can, yay, everybody's going to rally around it. We had no play to read. So back to my credentials. At the beginning of the 2000s, the Trinidad and Tobago Film Company Limited, which has now become Film TT, had it used to be called the PASD, the Production and Screenwriting Grant. and I won one of the writing grants, and I wrote a film script that I absolutely love. It's unproducible right now because I don't have the money to do it. And 12 months later, I applied again and I got another writing grant. Now, even though neither one of those got produced, what it did is it gives you a chance to look at how you deal with the process of writing a film script, not a stage. I've never written anything for the stage. Um, and the second script I wrote, which was something called The Vagaries, which is so bad I am embarrassed. I will not open it up. I will not read it. It's all over the place. I'm not proud of it. I don't like it. I don't want to have nothing to do with it. I'm going to take somebody else's name and put it on it if anybody ever finds it. And the next year, I just didn't bother. And then 12 months after that, I decided, okay, I'm going to take a shot at it. And what did I know that I wanted to write? I wanted to write something that was queer themed, and I wanted to write something that did not have an unhappily ever after. I have seen enough queer film in my life to know how that shit ends. I call it the fag must die trope, which is the protagonist, if not the lover of the protagonist, always ends up dead. It happened in every bloody thing from, longtime companion, which, well, they had to die because it was about AIDS, to the normal heart, to Brokeback Mountain. It's like, Jesus Christ, what is this? So I knew that I didn't want an unhappy ending. I did not want anybody to die. And I knew that I wanted to write something queer themed. Oh, and I wanted to, keep it on a budget that, if ever that can be done, yeah, we could do it as a low budget piece. I wrote it. Um, I A lot of other things played into it. A lot of themes that I never meant to put in it, but once again, listening to the voices of who I call, the voices of the gods, and just saying, okay, what about this? What about that? What about the other? So different things played into it, and I wrote it. I got the reactions to it. I asked people, if they would kindly read it, tell me what they thought about it. The feedback was good. So, but because film is such an expensive medium, I put it down and I didn't think about it for a long, long time. But I was rather happy with it. When Pride 2020 came along, and I couldn't think of anything. All of a sudden, I remember I had written this piece, even though it's a film script. We can have an online reading, and no, I hadn't read it in a long, long time. So I actually left the meeting I was at, and that was hosted by PrideTT, talking about what they're doing for 2020. And I went immediately into, my files, and I pulled it out and I began reading it. And I began thinking, okay, this isn't bad, but maybe this isn't bad because I wrote it and it's mine. So I began asking actors to read it. I began asking directors to read it. I began asking my fellow writers to read it. I asked producers to read it. And the response has been very, 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 very encouraging. So as I enter the final chapter of my career, and yes, it is the final chapter. I'm not even in denial about that. I'm not going to pretend, that, life begins at. No, I hate that game. Like when people say, well, you know what they say, 50 is the new 30. It's like, no, bitch, 50 is the new 50. Stop it. Um, so I am about to enter about to begin the final chapter in my career. which is pretty good. Anybody who has studied film writing knows that, every film script is broken up into beginning, middle, end. Three chapters, basically. Part one, part two, part three. I'm about to begin part three. So part three begins with um, next week. I officially begin working on an online reading for the Scrubbing Bench, which is the last writing project I did with the Trinidad and Tobago Film Company Limited. It's going to be done on YouTube. We're going to we now let me tell you something that happened also in 2020. 2020, once it began, and everybody went to hell in a handbasket. Certain things that we took for granted no longer exist. It's like sponsorship. There is no such thing as sponsorship. There is no such thing. Nobody's going to come and save you. You either save yourself. If not, live theater, like I said, is shuttered. I'm not going to go into theater. I'm not going to go into cinema. Apologies to those who work in cinema and who work in theater. I'm not going to do it because I cannot fight the paranoia. Whoever wants to go, be my guest. Go ahead. Good luck with that. Enjoy whatever it is that you're going to see. Um, so we're going to do it online. We're going to shoot it from various locations. There is a ticket pricing system to it. Now, unlike, regular theater that, you buy a ticket and you go, no, it's like, look, if, one household is the most, I can sell one ticket to. And because you could say, okay, well, it's only me, I want to see it. And then you just bring how many people over and you see it because we already paid for it, That's, that's just a reality. I'm not even going to go into denial about it. This, however, is going to pay for all of whatever it takes to put it together. I can, it's the whole direction it has to take and how it's going to be directed, how it's going to be produced and presented is going to be something that I have never done. It's something I've not seen anyone doing. I have seen a lot of stuff that is done specifically for YouTube, for Facebook, for whatever, and I haven't seen anybody do what I intend and what I want to do. If it works, it's something I'm going to also encourage other producers, directors, writers to try. And, let's have these online readings. I was incredibly inspired by Taika Waititi's production of James and the Giant Peach, which they, literally sit around and just read a damn book. But we're moving beyond that. It's to try and add whole other levels to it. Try to add texture to it. Try to add emotional content to it. What I will tell you, it's the name of it is The Scrubbing Bench. It's written by me. It's going to be directed by me. Um, One of the good things that has happened because of coronavirus is when you go online, you're no longer tied to your community. So I don't have to be just like, trying to sell tickets to people in Trinidad. Now the whole world is my, that's my audience. I'm kind of getting pushed into the wider world. And I think that for a lot of us who work in theater as writers, as producers, as directors, it's an opportunity to step out into that new unknown and let's see what happens. Is it frightening? Yes. Um, to have look, being a fish in a small pond is one thing. Being thrown into the great wide, I don't know what, is a whole nother thing. And yes, it's messed up. Yes, it's frightening. Um, but fear is a great motivator, number one. And I kind of not really afraid anybody. So I have my actors lined up. I'm asking them to take this journey with me, trust me on what is going to happen next. Um, a very, very, very quick aside on how I view film and television. Up to today, I was talking about it. I have such a curiosity about world film, world theater, that it actually takes me forever to see something that is produced in America, because that kind of cultural bullying that happens to come from America. And while I was writing the scrubbing bench, I while I was writing it, I was thinking that they teach you a strategy when it comes to writing a film script. You know, there is, okay, this is the recipe, and you just add it on whatever. And I kept thinking, why can I not break the rules? Why do I have to listen to these rules? So I began looking around to see how other people deal with it. I have a great love for Spanish film now. And when I say Spanish film, it's not only from Spain, I'm talking with Spain, Mexico, Argentina, because it's so unpredictable. I never know what's going to happen next. Um, I have discovered Italian comedy, and this is not like something I recently discovered. Um, I discovered a mass of queer themed films coming out from South Africa, of all places. But the interesting thing is, they all, about white South Africans, um, from Australia, from New Zealand, from India, from, have I gone to Russia yet? No, I've done like Czechoslovakia, I've done Norway, I've done Sweden, I've done Germany, I've done, you know, the Caribbean. We have, Play the Devil coming out to Trinidad and Tobago. And they don't follow the American recipe. And I also love British independent film too. Um, Unlike my dear friend Simon, who does not like to read subtitles, it's a necessary evil. Yes, it's very distracting to have to be looking down and up, down and up, down and up. And I keep telling people, thank God I'm wall-eyed, so one eye could look down and read, and the other eye look at the screen and see what's happening. Um, I knew that my brand, the way I direct a play is not following the rules. I know the rules. I know what I'm supposed to do, and I always tell people, if you're going to break the rules, at least know the rules. I know the rules of screenwriting. I've done screenwriting 101. I know what I'm supposed to do. I know how I'm supposed to set it up. But what if by page 10, I don't tell you what this is about? What if I roll it out very, very slowly? Which is actually, strangely enough, a French way of doing it. They, sometimes like halfway through a film, you're like, oh my God, that is what this film is about. And um, the other day I watched Barracuda, which is a 4-part miniseries from Australia. Halfway through, they, completely decided to go in a whole another direction. So I, I think, if we're going to, we, as in, us in Trinidad and Tobago, if we're going to step up to the plate, we should do it how we've dealt with music. Let's make our own rhythms. Let's make our own beats. Let's make our own, you know, let's make our own future. Let's see where this takes us. I don't know. I cannot tell you. Um, we're going into the great unknown. I, please come along and take this trip with me. I have no idea where I'm going, and I will be your host. Um, yeah, so that's kind of what we're chitting and chatting about. So anybody has any comments, any questions, anything, I can't go and see what's written on Facebook because, once I put that on, the sound is going to be feeding back at me and I'm going to be confused. So anything? Any questions? Any comments? Anything? Rudy?
Well, you should know that you have about 30 plus people on
Uh-huh.
Facebook feeds. Uh, you have people like Nikki Carew is signed on and Margaret Shepherd. Hi, Maggie.
Oh,
And
hi, Margaret.
I think Anthony's on the Zoom with you.
Uh-huh.
So I'm
No,
not
but if any, does anybody have any questions? That's what I wanted,
sure
So,
question.
so that we can have a conversation going.
Mervyn, it's Dwight. Can you just repeat for me the name of the film script that you wrote?
This one is called the Scrubbing Bench.
Scrubbing.
Scrubbing. Yeah,
Okay,
Scrubbing, Scrubbing Bench.
gotcha.
Um, well, the name explains itself in the middle of it, So that when the reading actually happens, you know,
Gotcha.
I don't want to get ahead of myself.
No. And
Any other?
do you anticipate there could come a time, let's say within the next 5 years, when it could be produced? And is it something that has to be produced in Trinidad?
Okay. As soon as how we're going to roll it out is we're going to have the online reading done, which is, I'm basically selling it like you would sell a theater play, and so people can comment on it, people can talk about it. I need to sell 200 tickets at $250 TT a piece so that I can cover all the costs, because like I said, any kind of sponsorship is now dead and gone, ancient history. Then we will re-release it later on, but we will release it as a fundraiser to try and begin pulling money together to make the film. Does it have to be made in Trinidad? I would rather it be made in Trinidad, but no, it doesn't have to be made in Trinidad. I wrote it in a way that I did not want it to be very area specific. I wanted it to be something that you can see in any country. So I have no references to Trinidad specifically. I have nothing that has to happen at this place because at this moment, and it's just open that way. But because Trinidad and Tobago it's actually quite lovely to look at, scenically, once you have the cinematographer who is ready, willing, and able, to go the extra mile. It has acting opportunities for actors that we don't really get all the time. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I used to be an actor, so I know what actors want. And when I'm writing, I'm actually playing all of the roles. So I know that I won't just, there's so few one-dimensional characters that I would write. I mean, it's like somebody coming with 2 lines. Yeah, I don't need to add that much dimension to you. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I have lots more, but I don't want to hog the other people's time.
Okay, well, let's see what because it's a conversation. I wanted, the back in and forth.
Michael Sherry has a question on Facebook. Anybody else who wants to join, put up your hand and we'll moderate that way, so we don't have people talking over each other, right? Michael Sherry has a question on Facebook. Any DPs in TNT you'd die to work with when you start directing the film?
Any directors of photography that I would die?
Yes, die to work with when you start.
I'm dying to work with anybody. The only one I would die to work with would be Roger Deakins, who is not Trinidadian and not from Trinidad. Let me tell you something. I've been talking to Sean Edgell because he is so funny. He is so mad. I love being around him. I look at his photography, and he has a very strong sense of, you know, self and identity and his artistry. Um, what I what for me, I think, you know, that the actors I work with, I get them to give as much of themselves as is possible. And this goes to lighting designers, this goes to costumers. I always tell them there is an old Russian fable called nail soup. Let me very quickly run nail soup by everybody. Nail soup is a guy's walking through the village. He has a nail, and so a woman, you know, he asked the woman if, you know, he could use her pot and get some water, and, you know, because he's going to make nail soup. So he throws this nail into the pot of water, and she's like, "What is this?" He's like, "Don't worry about it." A neighbor passes, and, you know, she's like, "What are you doing?" He's making nail soup, and he says, "You know what will make the soup better? If you throw in some turnips." And then somebody else comes in, and they, you know, they get carrots, and they get potatoes, and they get a little bit of meat, and they get, and eventually you end up with this incredible dish. Now that is how I operate. I operate like, you know, the guy with the nail. Everybody brings something of themselves that they know. I'm not going to sit down and judge them. I'm not going to sit down and say, you know, "Oh, you inferior being, you don't know anything," because I don't know what you have and what you can bring. It's anytime somebody, as an actor, I remember Wilbert Holder once was directing me, and I was so annoyed because he kept showing me exactly what to do and exactly what to say. And I was like, "Why you don't fucking do it yourself? You don't need me." You know, so I want my actors to know that I need them. I want my costumers to know I need you. I want, you know, my writer to know I need you. And I would like to think that they feel that they need me too, because it's a community thing. Now, one other thing I should add about the whole coronavirus situation is to get out of this. We're not going to get out of this if, you know, we just pulling for ourselves. We're going to get out of this. We're going to survive this. We're going to live through this by helping each other. You know, everybody just, you know, put out their hand and we drag each other up. And, you know, now I'm not going to go and say anything about, you know, that we all won and we all very kumbaya and hakuna matata and we all rise together, because no, some of us are dead weight. So sorry about that. See you when I get back down. You have to control quality. So I have to associate myself with the best actors. I have to associate myself with the best costumers. I have to associate my, you know, the best, the best, the best. And sometimes the best is not just being reputation. The best is being, you know, your soul and your spirit. And I always knew that I wanted to be the best. Am I the best? Um, okay, let me do the humility thing. Um, no, but I would like to aspire to be the best. Fuck that shit. Let me tell you something. I am brilliant. I don't give a rat's ass what anybody says, what anybody thinks. I have invested my entire life into this. I believe in me, and I am ready to pick up and run with it. I don't. I'm not intimidated by anybody who comes from the United Kingdom, who comes from the United States, who comes from Canada, who comes from Germany. I am not intimidated. And I don't think we should be. I think we need to understand that we have as much right to everything as they do. But we also need to understand we're not going to get it unless we are willing to work for it. And to really, you know, put it in your soul that yes, that is my value, that is my worth. Have I gone off on a bender about something completely rational? I don't know. Next question. Comments, anything? Oh my God, I made everybody run away. Hello? Rudy? Anybody?
No, actually, you got more people by going off on your tangent. Jillian,
Okay.
she agrees with
Hi,
you.
Jillian. What is that? What is the question?
She just said she agrees with you! Exclamation mark.
Oh yeah, and she's incredible too, eh? So and that is the other thing. That one should never be shy about telling people that you think they're good. It's so easy to say. It's you know what I hate? I hate when you go to see a production and it's really, really, really good, and people sit around picking and picking and picking and splitting hairs, and you're like, no, that was good. That was freaking brilliant. I remember when I saw Shango Tales of the Orishas, I was eviscerated. My guts just hanging out all over. I was so moved when I saw Tony Hall's oh gosh, what was the name of that? The Diamond Horseshoe Club. I saw it on the last night. I understand it was an hour shorter than opening night. It was so good. Um, and it's not why can we not raise ourselves up? When we raise each other up, we're raising ourselves up. And we have to understand we have value. This does not mean that everything that comes out of us is good, but when it is good, just fucking say it. Just will it kill you to tell somebody I am so proud of you? My God. So let me back. Yeah. Comments? Comments? Anything? Who's commenting? I can't see anything. Rudy, you have to help me.
No, I'm waiting to see. They're not.
I'm seeing so and so. Michael Cherry commented.
Okay, Michael says,
Kemi commented.
Well, Sally says, Mervyn, you rock. Sally
Oh,
Jet.
thank you.
Mike,
Which Sally is it? Which Sally is it?
Sally Jet, Denise Jet.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Michael asked another question. He says, do you see any visual references refilm? How would you pitch TSB?
How would I pitch it? You know, that is a very, very interesting question. How would I pitch it? Good God, that is like, how would you sell your child into slavery? Well, first I would bathe her and wash her and, comb her hair.
The Bible has a whole chapter on that.
A whole chapter on how to slave. It's number one, it's set in the real world, in that, it's nothing, nothing fanciful. There is a thing of, that all writers need to address. Write what you know. So I began writing, even though it's about a situation that I really don't know anything about. Some, man in his middle age who is in the closet, who is married, and that's the takeoff. Um, but I know people like this. I know people. Okay, what I should do is go back to how this came about. So I know that I want to write a queer themed thing, and I know I wanted to have a happy ending. That is all I know. And I'm running out of time, as usual, to tell the Trinidad and Tobago Film Company exactly what this project is going to be. So what I do, like a good Roman Catholic, is I go to church to meditate because I love ceremony. I absolutely love ceremony. I love it's also rehearsed, and we all kneel at the same time, we stand at the same time, we hold hands. Well, that is ancient history now because we really can't look at each other in the age of COVID. But we all come together as one. Ha ha ha. And I'm standing in church and I'm looking around and I'm thinking, for me, I think we're all very dishonest in church. And I don't mean that in a negative way. What I mean is because we put on our best face and we all the nice version of ourselves. And I can go back to childhood when we would go to mass and we would do whatever we had to do and we'd sing along, we were one in the spirit, and we would all be smiling at all the adults and all being very nice. And we leave mass, we go into our car, we sit down, and as soon as that door closes, we begin fighting. This is the children. So the mother has to spin around, to backhand one of us. And like 2 seconds ago, we all angelic and, kind and Christian. And now we just a bunch of animals, gnawing at each other. So, I look back on that and I'm like, yes, we really on, you know, we on best behavior. So I'm wondering, okay, I wonder what is his secret. I wonder what is her secret. I wonder. And I began, building it and seeing it. And I was like, okay, so this is going to be a piece about a very good Catholic. And, you know, to try and follow through with that and be honest with it. So what I did, and I mean, this is something I really shouldn't even be showing off about, but I'm going to do it. Um, I went online and I joined uh, a community of closeted Catholic men, and I just, watched their conversations and I, absorbed all of that. And number one, it's a community. Oh my God. Number two, I'm going into a Catholic community to be deceitful because that is what I am doing. I have to be honest with myself. Um, and I think I got the rhythm from that because these men want to do what the church teaches you to do. Now, notice I said what the church teaches you to do, not what the Bible teaches you to do, um, because it's completely different. And up to the other day, I was having a conversation with my mother about I don't know if anybody knows this little passage in the Bible about the Roman centurion and his servant who was dying, and then he asked Jesus to come and to see this servant because he was the only one who could help. And now I don't know what you all know about Roman centurions, but that is like anti everything that the Christ was about. And I have to ask, why, what kind of faggoty shenanigans is this? Your male servant who you're so enamored with that you would give up every single thing. And the way the Bible treats it, it's not very judgmental at all. So it's, all of that, I began reading passages in the Bible to see what this meant. And I've split it up into chapters, and every single thing that I have done in it has references to the Bible. So that is my other big reveal is that, yes, there is a very strong Christian theme running through it. But it's not like, Jehovah's Witness Awake magazine with, God will save you and this and that and that and that. It's all the themes that came in that bubbled up that I addressed, that I felt that I had to address, that I was inspired to address, and some things that I've actually, every single thing I've ever written, there is something in it that is taken directly out of my life. And so, yes, I can look at smatterings in it and just go, Jesus Christ, you really want to put that out. And one thing I learned as an actor is I can be my most authentic self by going out on stage and being me, but because I have a different name, that is the name of the character, everybody's going to say, oh my God, you're so good. I was like, thank you. But let's be honest. I wasn't acting when I was doing those things. I was, not acting because we do a lot of acting in our day-to-day. Okay, does that answer the question? Michael asked a question about the director of photography. How did I end up at this? Yeah.
Actually,
Any other questions?
we had an entire discussion on faith, LGBTQ faith, and we had representatives from the Catholic Church,
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah,
Anglican,
I saw that. Mm-hmm.
and a lot of what you just referenced in terms of the history of how same-sex partnerships were, but then how they were skewed by the church in terms of how they were skewed by the Vatican in particular and throughout history, and then in the patriarchy. But before all of that, same-sex relationships were accepted, and they were revered, and they were part of societies throughout all continents. So one of the reverends spoke about that, about how religion has sort of skewed how religion views it. But
yeah, well, that takes you all the way back to the whole two-spirit.
yeah, exactly.
That whole thing that is very, native. It's the indigenous people who do that and who believe in that. Um, I can sum up the entire Christianity in 3 words: God is love, and that's the beginning, the middle, and the end. You have nothing to preach beyond that. Anybody who has held a child, the child that is a part of them, and that feeling of completeness, that is God. You're in the presence of God, um, which it's an interesting thing to look at. My sister is a grown ass woman. She is a grown woman, but that is still my baby, because at 8, I picked up that baby, and that baby will always be, in my soul. And the same thing for my goddaughter, and the same thing for the twins. And it's that love, and this is why I don't understand how people can, if you say you love somebody and then they become something that you don't want them. I saw this really interesting film from Italy, and I cannot remember the name. I will try to, I will look it up and post it. But it's this father who, he is a doctor and whatever, and the son says he has something to tell him, and they all rally around, and they're like, okay, I'm convinced that he's going to say that he is gay, and he's going to come out, and we're all going to be very supportive. And then the son comes out and says he wants to be a priest. The father is an atheist. So it's that whole balance of what love can do, how we deal with it. And love cannot die. When you like somebody and you're good friends with somebody, that could die. You could put a gun to its head and pull the trigger and say, like, I have a can of bitch be gone, and I'm about to spray your ass with it. And so, oh my God, now I'm vitriolic.
Natalie Phillips she just wants to say thank you for the opportunities to work with you, Mervyn!
Oh, I loved working with Natalie.
She said she enjoyed your Jones looking for costumes.
Yes, we did beef and chicken, and we found some of the shittiest looking rags ever. We had so much fun. I had a ball. I love working with Natalie too.
Dwight
any other questions? Any other comments?
Yes, Dwight has a follow-up question to Michael's. He asked,
yeah.
Mervyn, would you say the story is uniquely Trinidadian or Caribbean, or you think it will resonate with the wider international community?
I don't know that I can write something that is very specifically Trinidadian, that only Trinidadians will get. Now, you have things that only Trinidadians will get. And we had that experience when we did Westwood Park, that some things that Trinidadians would watch and they would kill themselves with laughter. And people not from Trinidad would watch it and be stone-faced. They didn't even get the fact that it was a joke. And, but because, like I said, because for 2020 alone, I've seen films and stories and all of that and TV series and everything from all over the place. So I think that informs a lot of what I do. So that no, it's not specifically Trinidadian. It's not something that would not be understood outside of Trinidad. Um, Even the very first script that I wrote for the Trinidad and Tobago Film Company Limited, which is a piece called Pooja, which is my Bollywood spousal abuse fantasy. I don't find it's very I don't find it specifically for Trinidad alone, even though it's based on somebody that I knew and I saw growing up in Trinidad. So no, no to answer. The very quick answer is no. It's not specifically Trinidadian, and I don't think I ever want to time myself to that.
So let me engage you a little bit while other people post commentary, right? You asked the question on your post, what happens next? Performance and COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
But for some of the people on the call, they would have heard this part of the conversation before, but our videos tend to travel widely. I'm going to ask you this question. What the fuck has not been happening in this country to allow our performance artists and cultural community to have a sustainable living? Because this COVID-19 has just exacerbated it. But many
Uh-huh.
of you all have been having challenges in your career.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell? What has not been done since 1962, since we had so-called
Um,
independence? What is the problem?
okay. We have a few problems. Problem number one, because we have an overabundance of creativity in Trinidad and Tobago, it's something we take for granted. We, I don't think we could begin to count the amount of people who play musical instruments. I don't think we could count the amount of people who sing, who write songs. I will ask anybody, and please somebody for once answer me, say, I don't. The question is, does anybody not, is anybody not related to an artist? And the answer, if you can say I'm not, then okay, I'll take that. But I've been asking this my entire life. It's an overabundance. So when you have an overabundance, you take it for granted. It's like when you grow stuff and you just good God, how many ways can we eat cucumber? How much Jesus Christ, come on, you know it's because we have an overabundance. That's one thing. The other thing is nobody knows, nobody's aware of, because we have, okay, let me step back on this one. Black people is a damaged people. We, and I say we because let me just throw this out. Growing up, my mother used to call us, the children, you know, these nigger children and these red nigger children and, these niggers. And then somebody said, asked her once, why do you do that? Why do you call them that? Because, I mean, let's be honest, we could pass. Um, and passing is not something that, there is no pride in that. None. So when asked why did she do that, the answer was very simple, which is something I never thought about because growing up as, one of them niggas, it was, so when you go in the white people country and they call you a nigger, you wouldn't just be in shock and have to run back home. So we grew up and it was not a negative. It was not a positive. It was just a fact of life. Um, my great grandmother of 6 generations ago was a slave from Ghana named Kitty Mondai. And she was purchased by the Buchanan plantation. And she had a child for the massa. And that is, she is the matriarch of our family. And as we go through and we, the name DeGoeas is it's a misspelling of a Portuguese name, which is actually Degoes. But I guess the slaves in Brazil didn't know how to spell it because the name came through Brazil. Um, I have a great grandfather from China. I have Spanish people, English people. It just goes on and on and on and on. So we grew up with a sense of, you know, eventually everybody on the planet is going to be like us, just uber mixed. And because internet, the majority of people have that whole mixed background thing. So when you look now at how we grew up post independence like that. Um, but you have these voices straight through history telling you that, the white man did this and the white man did that. And it's all very, very damaging. It devalues your sense of worth. So I'm very lucky that the time that I grew up in was a time with, what was known as black exploitation, when all of a sudden we had black celebrities that we didn't, as a child who we had. We had Diana Ross and the Supremes. We had Smokey Robinson. We had Stevie Wonder. We had the Motown guys. We had the Isley Brothers. I can't remember what label they were on. Um, but we didn't really have, we had what Julia on TV with Diane Carroll. But all of a sudden in the 70s, it just boomed and exploded. We had Pam Grier, we had Fred Williamson, we had Shaft, we had Cleopatra Jones. And so coming out of this, and at the same time, when you go home on Sunday, you had the Indian movie, and being lucky enough to have grown up in the days of TTT when you came home and you had meditation at the end of the day. Meditation was the way the station opened, and you had one day we would have Buddhists chanting, the next afternoon we'd have you know Hindus doing the Shanti chants, then the next day you would have Roman Catholics, and then next day you'd have spiritual Baptists. So we got all of this information coming at us, which is what makes Trinidad a very, very, very unique place, and a unique outlook. But somewhere along the line, we got lost and we got confused. So we bought what people told us. We bought into the American mythology. And we lost sense of our identity. So we lost our sense of storytelling. We lost our sense of, so because of that now, it's a confused mishmash. We went from, only stories we could tell was, what we used to call standpipe politics, which I guess is the Trinidadian equivalent to the British kitchen drama. And then, we didn't know what we sold out, but we didn't know why we sold out. We didn't know, and you've seen it happen in mass too, because, when you look back at the history of mass and you have Carlisle Chang and you have the Leongs and you have Wayne Barclay and you have Harold Saldina. And I remember I met Harold Saldina's grandson, and when I found out he was Harold Saldina's grandson, I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, I'm sitting with royalty, which he and all was looking at me like, I think you done lost your damn mind. But, because these names are legendary now. But to us, I don't know the people who grew up in the 80s and the 90s, I don't know what they had to hang on to. So a sense of worth is also what helps you in being a storyteller internationally. And the final thing is what is holding back theater, what has always held back theater, is you could make money, and as soon as people make money, they begin following a recipe, and it just gets cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper until it has no value. Oh God, I really should not have said that, but I did, and I have to stand by it. So, okay, who's next to ruin my career? Anybody?
Uh, Natasha Gray just says, thank you for doing this, Mervyn. It's completely refreshing and enlightening. Thank you to PrideTT.
Oh, well, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Any other questions, any other comments? Please feel free. It's a conversation, it's not a lecture. Anybody else?
We have some young people on the call that I know. You all don't have any
Uh-huh.
questions or contributions. What would you all like to see? What solutions would you all like to see as young persons entering the theater industry or the performing arts industry?
The other thing I should add is that we need to think beyond just the theater industry, because the theater industry is going to be the last thing to really seriously reopen. We need to look at film, we need to look at television. We need, now, if you don't have money, you have to depend on creativity. You have to depend on each one helping one. Um, and look, the playing field has been leveled right now. Right? Um, it's open season on everybody. We can actually reach out to people that we didn't think possible previously. And the world is now our stage. So we can look at that. You can look at YouTube now, how, the whole monetization of YouTube. I don't know how that goes. I don't know what a Patreon is. I know that, it's some kind of money raising thing. I don't know how those things run. But we have to find new and creative ways to get through that. Um, when theater reopens, because I've been thinking for the longest while, when we did Man Talk in 2004, I wanted to do it at Nallis, because Nallis is an open air theater. It's in the middle of town. I always wanted to do Moon on a Rainbow Shawl at Nallis, because you have the sound of the people outside, you have the sound of the cars passing. You it becomes so beyond interactive, and it becomes immediate. And we need to look at spaces like that now. Now that we know we can go out and be among each other in open air spaces with our masks on. Um, we need to begin looking at that. We need to get creative and thinking of new spaces, and but we need to not be afraid. We need to understand we have value, we have worth, and you know nothing's going to stop us. Even if you do something and at the very beginning nobody comes, that does not mean stop. That does not mean no. That means you need to give them something that they have to want. Anything else?
Well, you start.
What is
You may have answered it already, but Cameron wanted to know, how do we move forward?
Okay, Kemi is one of my favorite actors on this entire planet. She's so awesome. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Everybody look, just remember when I tell you this, that that is a name you will know very, very well. Now, what did Kemi want to know?
How do we move forward?
How do we move forward? Um, right now we have to clear bush and see what happens next. um, I know I am moving forward with my online project, which I have invited Kenny on that journey. And let's just go out and carve new highways and byways. We don't know yet. We don't know yet. Put your hand in the hand, kind of thing, and let's see what happens. Okay. I don't know if that answers the question, but who next?
She says she agrees with regard to the new spaces.
Yeah, yeah. You know, um, you see, also the other thing is, anytime anytime I have to deal with air conditioning too long, within a week I begin to suffer from nosebleeds, and I'm like a heroine in a Tennessee Williams play. All of a sudden I'm like dying, and no. So yeah, I kind of like the open space, the open air thing. So who's next? Who's next? Who's next? Who's next?
Natalie Phillips comments, we have some great work being done by Camille Salvan Abrahams in animation.
Mm-hmm.
Would you consider writing for a feature-length animated film or even a short series? And if you were to be involved in such a work, what can the world expect?
Okay. Number one, I went and I sat in. This is just a little preamble to that. I went and I sat in on the animation class. They had a little final thing happening in the class of 2018, 2019, I guess. I don't know. Um, I was a little taken aback at how many young people interested in that whole animation thing, because animation to me is like a whole nother language. Then I was surprised at how many of them, into the whole manga, and my one thing to them is, and when you look around you can see it. If you look at um there is something called what Love and Robots, I think, that it's like all the different styles of animation, and then you have Big Mouth on Netflix, which is another style of animation, and then you have The Simpsons, which is another style, and you can so many different styles, and you make an impression when you create your own. This came from you, and nobody can copy it, because if they copy it, it's not going to be original. Um, so that's one thing. The other thing is, and I think it's because I'm so locked in my head. Um, I'm not like if when the Oscars come around, I don't rush to see all the films. I used to do that, but I stopped because some of them just really overrated, and I so like I still haven't seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because I want to get that out of my head. I want to get what everybody said about it, and is what, like 3 months ago I finally saw Call Me by Your Name. Um, but I have this thing locked in my head that animation is a children's thing. When I saw two of the Oscar nominated animated films were on Netflix. They're co-produced by Netflix actually. One is called Klaus, I think, and I can't remember what the other one is. But one was so adult, and I don't mean like sexually explicit. I mean it was like David Lynch kind of. I watched it. I'm like, I was ready to sit back and relax and okay, just let this wash over me. No, I had to sit up and concentrate and think. So if I were to write for an animated film, I don't know. It would have to, whoever is the parent of the project would have to, tell me what direction they want to go in. If it's like something that is for children, now the problem with me and children's storytelling is we grew up with Hans Christian Andersen. We grew up with the Brothers Grimm. Um, we didn't even grow up with Charles Perrault, who is the one who took all these stories and changed them around. Now, anybody knows the original Little Mermaid. It ends in suicide. If you know Hansel and Gretel, it's about parents trying to get rid of children because they can't feed them. Um, and that ends in cannibalism. And Snow White, not Snow White, Red Riding Hood is an allegory about rape. And when you go back to the original Chinese version of Cinderella, which if you think about it, and I have thought about it, it makes sense that it's a Chinese tale because having the smallest feet in the kingdom means something to them aesthetically. This is like, in ancient China. So, everybody just accepts, oh, she had the smallest feet in the kingdom, and nobody says, so what's the big deal? I don't see, I myself don't see anybody running around saying, oh my God, did you see that young lady? She has such teeny tiny feet. She's so beautiful. No. So it makes sense in that, but in the original telling of the tale, the wicked stepmother goes and it's a fish that grants the wishes, and she cooks the fish and serves it at the wedding feast. So I I don't know Disney storytelling. It's still alien to me that everything has to end happily ever after. I love The Lion King because The Lion King is just murder and mayhem all the way through. It is so Shakespearean. Um, and children just get with it. So I don't think the children are afraid of old timey storytelling. If you ever read the original Rapunzel, the prince is kicked off of the hair when he's climbing up. I mean, even thinking
Yeah.
about that. He lands in the brambles, he's blinded, he roams the earth for 7 years. This we look at that and think, that's not for children. But yes, that is for children. And well, I'm beginning to wonder now if people are thinking, well, I don't want my child to grow up to be like you, so me reading them that shit, let them
No,
stay
but
with
it's
Disney
a very,
Plus.
very important point because studies have shown that people have grown up believing concepts of love based on
Hmm.
Disney. Based on Disney.
Well,
That
it's a whole American thing, yeah.
yeah, what you were saying. Yeah.
Some creepy shit that happens, like Love Actually has a stalker, and we're supposed to be rooting for him. Um, if you ever see 500 Days of Summer, a film that I love because Joseph Gordon-Levitt is one of my favorite actors on this planet, so I never miss anything that he does. Um, but in rewatching it, you realize, wait a minute, he's the villain. Oh my God, I've been rooting for the villain all along. Because he is kind of a stalkery dick. He, and she says, I don't want any relationship. And, because we have been hypnotized into believing in true love. So
Mhm.
we just go along with it. And now I'm like, wait a minute. He's an asshole. And, why have I been rooting for him? So, that level of storytelling. But anytime you see you telling a story and it hits an ambiguous, murky kind of spot, that is when I am thrilled by it. I think that has a lot to do with why I love Spanish storytelling, because somebody can go from villain to redemption arc in 2 seconds flat. I can hate you so much. I loved the original Narcos because I know that he is such a villain. I know historically who this man is, but the actor was so charming that I'm like, you sell those drugs, you know. So if anybody wants to do an animated film with very ambiguous um, kind of morality, then yeah, let's talk. I'd be very interested. One thing I was thinking of the other day is because we can experiment with so many different styles of storytelling. And at one point, everybody was like, I want to do something with the local folklore characters. And then I was telling Daniel Diffendahl the other day, we should do something with all, just all. If you ever saw Cabin in the Woods, anybody who likes horror movies, please see Cabin in the Woods. It is so good. It is so ridiculous. It is so over the top. It is genius. And they literally threw everything in. They threw in the kitchen sink. They threw in the kitchen. They just threw everything in. Um, it was absolutely brilliant. Um, and Frankenstein that the National Theatre played a couple of months ago as part of the whole fundraising theatre during the COVID-19 crisis. The morality in it is so all over the place because you love this creature that has been created that is just a murderous piece of shit. That oh, I love that. I love that. So yeah, let's invest in whatever. You know, we have to remember that because the living art, and this includes dance, we have no limits. Our limits are our imagination. So yeah, and we need to foster writers too. And this is, I don't mean that, oh, we encouraging you. No, you know when somebody has that spark that we need to invest in not only financially but also emotionally. So yeah, next. I hope that answers the question. Whoever asked it, who asked the question?
Well, that was Natalie Phillips talking about animation.
Yes, yeah, and I like Camille too. Camille is awesome.
Oh, yes, she is. Jillian Trotman, do you think that theater or film industry, theater or film industry in the Caribbean is contemporary?
No, and I don't think so for a very, very simple reason.
Mervyn,
What,
do other people a favor and define contemporary?
okay, no, I'm about to do that.
Right.
When you look at contemporary film from all over the world, there is no single theme that keeps showing up. It's all over the place. And you can look around and see stuff coming out of Argentina, coming out of South Africa, coming out of Australia, and I can guarantee you that, okay, from South Africa, I've seen Distropen, which is Afrikaans for the harvesters, which is about white people who live on a farm, and they're under the constant threat of having their farm burnt down. And then I saw Jonathan, which is about a guy who lives in another farming community, but it's about his father who's dying of cancer, who finally comes to terms with his sexuality. Then there is Schijnhund, which is Afrikaans. Yeah, my Afrikaans is coming up to scratch. That's Afrikaans for beauty, which, it's about a white man who, embarks on a journey to find sex in the darkest corners of Johannesburg. So, the themes keep changing. 90% of what is coming out of Trinidad is the poor black boy who either living on the hill, living up in Caranage, and he ends up in some gang thing. And I mean, come on, it's one story we have telling over and over and over again. It's like our theater. It's a trope now. You know, the sex comedy thing. No. If we're going to keep up with everybody, we have to tell all different types of stories. Not just one. And we have to train our audiences to expect anything. And that's the only contemporary thing that is happening right now, is that it's a bit of everything coming from now. I will also add that I don't particularly know what's coming out of the United States because they are of little interest to me. And I don't mean that as a put down or anything, but I just think a lot of the stuff I've seen it before. It's like I stopped, being interested in superhero movies, because it's the same bloody thing over and over and over and over again. How many times can you watch the same show? You know, it's like watching Friends. It's the same fucking episode over and over and over again. You all need to stop. So if we're going to keep up with everybody, we need to, every single person I know has a different experience in life and living. Every story has value. Every one of us has a story to tell. And it is just as interesting as the other. It's like when you run into somebody that you haven't seen in a long time in a social setting and you begin talking, you just like, if you haven't seen, I haven't seen you since 1982. And when you begin talking, it's so much interesting stuff is bubbling up. Um, so we need to talk about that. But I also think that, there is a fear of, of reality. And I mean, we're living through that right now, which we saw happen. People didn't know what to do, how to cope with reality when reality changed on Black Friday. So everybody is like, if you really, really want to annoy me, is tell me like, if it was like it was 12 months ago, well, it's not like it was 12 months ago. It's never going to be like it was 12 months ago because that's history. That's done. It's the same thing to me as telling me, if it was like 1972. Yeah, but it's not. Everything has changed. We're living in an exciting time, and I know the whole thing of, who knows what could happen next? Is an asteroid going to hit the planet? Because everything is so fucked up right now. But you know what? We're living in an age of kindness. I have seen people be so kind to others. Yes, I've seen, the rise of the Corona Karen, and I've seen, the rise of assishness. And, I've seen the trash can fire that is the United States right now. And it's an incredible time to be alive. And I think we need to see beyond, what we're frightened of right now. And I'm not saying that I'm any superhero. I'm not, I know now that, shit is brewing and, they found some community spread happening. I will tell anybody, I am panicking. I am panicking. But I'm keeping a lid on it because it's not too cool to just be like, running up and down yelling the sky is falling. So yeah, I also encourage people to like, write about this time and write about what they feel. And, because hopefully we'll never feel this way again when this is done. So yeah, I know I drifted all over the place, but yeah, our stories are they all have value. We seem to think that, and I experienced that in Westwood Park, is that when people talk about, why they're not talking about the price of school books, is that who in New Zealand give a fuck about the price of school books in Trinidad? Why can we only see in Trinidad? Why can we not see that our stories have value outside of Trinidad? So
Actually,
everybody has a good story.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad you said that because one of the points that resonated with me from Westwood Park was the whole conversation about a company involved in environmental espionage. And to Trinidad, I'm sorry to generalize, but to many of us, that was such a foreign concept.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it needed to be because other people where we wanted Westwood Park to travel, they would get that.
yeah,
Understand what you're saying,
yeah. So that's one of the things that why number one, I would not go and adapt anybody's play to Trinidad because I don't do that. That just does not. That can never enter my psyche. It's no. I can't think of touching people's original writing. Number one. Number two. Um, when when you have the I've done plays from South Africa. I've done plays from the United Kingdom. I've done plays from Jamaica, and it's bringing that whole aesthetic to the Trinidadian stage. We have the power to take our aesthetic and put it on any stage on this planet. And I think we need to understand that. I think we need to see it. I think we need to just put it out, put that energy out. So, but how I do go on. Anything else?
Yes, Michael Sherry asks, Michael asks, what are your thoughts on the self-recorded solo show, even as a company piece, actors acting with each other in isolation, like how voice actors do it in animated films?
Well, that's what I'm doing next. So, what do I think of it? I would like to push it, to push it beyond the limitations right now. So I'm all for that. I'm all for that. I'm all for anything that, look, we're entering the void. We don't know what is on the other side, but we're not going, you're not going to achieve anything by being cowardly and, waiting to see what others do. So don't let them alone enter the void and come out and say, okay, this is on the other end. No, let's go in and say, well, that's on the other end for you. That's not on the other end for me. It's people don't see that, Trinidadians go out and, our chefs bring that Trinidad uniqueness and people just lop it up. Yes, our artists can do the same thing. So we just need to have faith in ourselves, never for 1 second think that they're better than us because they're not. Um, I can find many famous people, that people love and that they say, oh my gosh, she is so good, and it's like, no, they suck. And then I would be willing to sit with you and break it down. We are very, very good. We are very indisciplined and we're very lazy. But this is something that happens to us from because we taught, to memorize a whole book. But when it comes time for us to just stand up and talk, and this is what happened at the beginning of the pandemic too, because everybody just has to get up and extemporize. And this is what I'm seeing, and this is what I'm feeling, and this is what I'm thinking. Now that you had nothing to repeat, you just folded. So we need to understand, yes, we have a voice and we can experiment with that voice. And it doesn't matter if somebody disagrees with us. Even if we disagree with what they say about us, we have to fight for them to say what they're saying. Even though they're constantly saying, well, you suck. So, well, I don't agree with you, but you have the right to say it. So we need to understand, yeah, we have a voice, and it's a unique voice, and it's a voice that should go out. Anything else?
So Daryl would like to ask you, what are some good books for learning to write plays?
What are some good books? Okay, you look, you learn to write the basics. This is what I need to do. It's like and you can find those online very easily, but the best teacher you will get is just writing and let people comment on it. Ask them to comment because this is my second blog that I'm doing, and I can tell you exactly why I stopped, and I'll tell you afterwards. Trinidadians tend to not comment. The first blog I wrote, that was about a decade ago, and I had a lot of followers from, of all places, South Africa. And I was telling, stories that were very, very Trinidadian. And, this is my adventure and whatever and whatever and whatever. And they would comment and we would have discussions but I was always thinking, why do Trinidadians not read blogs? And then, you'd run into somebody and they would say, oh, I read it all the time. And, then somebody would call you and say, oh my God, I really, you're like, but I had no idea who is reading this. I had no idea that anybody's reading this. My last blog, which I paused on, and I will tell you why, as I said afterwards. Um, because you can track, the different countries that, people, somebody in Japan was reading it, somebody in India was reading it. I had people in various parts of Africa reading it. And I had Trinidadians reading it. I have Trinidadians reading it, but they don't really comment. So you're kind of going in. Now, I was doing it because it gives me a way to express myself and to write and to get that experience. But I have discovered you find people, it's like, as a director, there are some people who I want to know what they thought of what I did. And some people who would come and tell you, oh my God, I loved it, and I would just not even think about it. I'd think, I, I'm not interested in your opinion because your opinion is stupid. I'm not impressed by you. So why should I, just be taking all the good things you say and taking that to church with me? And, if somebody I respects what I do, I am on cloud nine. And if somebody I just think is a waste of time says, I love what you do, I say thank you, and I'm done. I'm not going to be ingracious or ungracious. Um, so find people who would read, who would make the commitment to reading. And I will tell you one thing too. Um, I have had experiences with people who have written stuff and I could not get through, and I will tell them exactly why I could not get through it. But find people you trust. Don't find people who will only tell you they love it, because that's, you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're handing yourself some dishonesty, and you don't need that. And you need to be your own critic too. And I don't mean you need to be horrible to yourself and you need to be, like putting yourself down and saying, no, this could be better. Yes, many times you read stuff you've written and you think, yeah, this needs a little improvement. But if you're honest, you're going to know, yes, I think I did well with that. And don't, what they say, self-praise is no praise. I always ask the question, so self-help is no help? Self-confidence is no confidence? What kind of assishness you telling me this shit about self-praise is no praise? No, praise is praise. Just don't overdo it. I hope that answers your question.
So for now, those seem to be the comments and questions on the two platforms.
Okay. Everybody on Zoom is so shy,
I know.
except Dwight. So, well, I think we should begin considering wrapping it up. How long have I been on?
About an
It's
hour.
2 hours.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we were on time, but I know we started
Uh-huh.
a little late. We were waiting on folks.
Yeah. But yeah, let's in closing, I just remembered what I didn't finish. I talked about why I stopped on my blog. Um, so I was writing as, looking at all that was going on around us and all of that. And then the Black Lives Matter situation happened. And I found that I could not comment on it, not because I didn't believe in it, but because I had to ask myself a question and I needed to go and seek answers. And the question was, am I racist? I don't think I'm racist. I, I'm not going to use some of my best friends are kind of bullshit, but I needed to go out and look, I needed to inspect racism. What is racism? And I went down that rabbit hole and spiraled. And it just kept opening one thing after another, after another, after another. And, things that happened in the United States and that you see reflected and coming back at you, and understanding, when people talk about repatriation, it's always, oh, so we give you money and then what? And it's like, no, it's not about money. It's not, you cannot pay somebody for robbing them of their own history. There is no amount of money on this planet that can make up for what you have robbed my parents, my grandparents, my great grandparents, And this goes all the way back to the 1600s. You just can't, it's not money alone. It's going into a shop and, you know, I've seen it. I've seen, women walking on the road and somebody coming up and suddenly, their handbag go in their armpit. And I've seen like, somebody tap somebody on the back and they just spin around because they're on Charlotte Street. And, I began looking at our own racism within our society. And, there are people who would never use the N word or anything like that. And it's, they don't say it, but the things they do. I had an experience at a shop recently. And, as I've said, I know that, I know that I pass. I know that, some people would look at me and think that I am white, and some people would look at me and think I'm Asian and whatever. And I'm standing outside and I'm waiting, and everybody's social distancing. We're waiting to get into the shop. And you have on your mask. And the white man come and ask me if I'm okay, if I need anything. I mean, there's like 3 black people ahead of me. What the fuck? So, I mean, I'm getting conscious of it and like overseeing it now. And, understanding what privilege means and the poison that is privilege. So that is why I paused on writing. I will go back, and I mean, it's only 52 articles I'm writing, and I'm already at 40 something, and I'm already missing it. So that's my comment on why I paused on my blog. Anything else? Anybody want to say any, closing statements? And yeah, I found out I'm not racist, so yay.
Cameron is saying someone asked a question. Cameron, where did she ask the question? I'm not seeing the question.
What is it?
I'm looking. Cameron, can you retype the question? I'm not seeing it. From Kijana. I hope I'm pronouncing these names correctly. In the comments.
Well, what is the question? Just ask the question. Repeat the question.
Simone says, thanks for this. It's an honor to know you and call you a friend. I think the rebirth, in inverted commas, of theater when we survive this plague. I appreciate you as a director and the way you empower actors to be fucking brave.
Oh, thank you. That is so sweet. Simone is one of my favorite actors too. She's so good. Oh my God, I know so many good people.
So Mervyn, we covered a lot. I mean, we covered why we are where we are. We covered the anxieties and the challenges. But you made the point that we have the talent, we have the technologies, we have the models, we have enough to work with. So as we sort of wrap up, what else? What are your calls to action? What do you want to see people doing more of?
Well, I think we need to begin by just talking. just having conversations with each other, finding out, what we aspire to, and just moving with that, and finding your own people, and everybody just make a decision that what, um, let's be brilliant. Let's not be intimidated by anything. But I think it begins with conversation and how we move beyond that. Okay, so I think we're done. I think we've come to the end of the road. Um, let's see what happens in the next few months, and let's just talk. Maybe we can have a little. You see, if we begin a roundtable thing, I'm telling you, next month 2 people come, next 2 people less come, and then the next month 2 people less come, and then but we can still communicate with each other. Okay,
Agreed. Well,
so
thank you very much, Mervyn, for sharing, always being open, taking the time. Tonight is actually the last night of the Pride Month. Tomorrow we have a little get together to celebrate what we've been able to achieve, all things notwithstanding. But I think this is a good note to leave on, that we have to continue the conversation. So we'll do
yeah,
our part.
yeah.
We'll do what we can to facilitate.
So Natalie just said something. I don't know what she said,
She
but
said do a cooking show.
I would love to do that, but people always like, oh, if it's taking longer than an hour, I ain't doing it. No, I don't mind taking hours. You know, Especially now that I make my own pasta and things like that. And tomorrow I'm going to try making dusty roti for the first time ever in my life.
What
Um,
what time to pass?
you could pass anytime you want. I'm not home. Supposed to come out like shit, and then you pass and you're like, what nastiness is this?
And you say you want constructive feedback? Right.
Yeah, but I have to experiment, and then after that, so just the other day I only found out listening to some chef from India saying that you need to knead it for like 10 minutes. I was like, oh, because in like 5 minutes I'm exhausted. So okay, things that I have to do. I don't need stuff enough. So but no ixnay on the cooking show for now. Let me get some confidence happening. Okay. So
So on that,
let's all just hope that this community spread can be curtailed now, by midnight. And I look forward to to seeing what happens next, and I will keep everybody updated and informed. Okay.
fantastic.
So everybody have a good one,
Yes,
and
please.
we'll see you around.
Take care.
Bye. Okay. Bye. You all go home. Go home. I'm leaving now.
Bye.
I'm out. Bye.